Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We've got a win to talk about tonight. Yes, I'm not on for a draw or a defeat, which is great, absolutely fantastic. Welcome back to the Spurs Chat Podcast, everyone. As you can see, we've actually only got we have got three guests with me. There we go. There's Si. Hello, welcome back. It's not that bad, Si, is it? Jesus.
No, the internet just died.
Oh, did it? Oh, right. Okay, fair enough.
You just like to make an entrance, Si. That's all it is.
What can I say? What can I say?
We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube, and we are live on X as always. And get down in the comments and let us know how you're feeling as a Spurs fan right now. After that, I wouldn't say a demolition of Everton at their new stadium, but we're the first side to win at their new stadium, which is a great feeling. And as I say, we are up to, I think we're third in the table, aren't we? I think we're third. How good does that sound? What a crazy, crazy season this has been so far, though. You know, our performances, and we're third in the league. And it's great to see different teams up there as well, actually, the likes of Sunderland and that, which is fantastic. Anyway, what am I doing? Let's talk about some stats. Actually, let's introduce the guests. Let's do it a bit differently. Ricky, I can see you're itching to talk. How are you, Ricky?
Always itching to talk, bruv. Always itching to talk, especially after a win, my friend. Buzzing, absolutely buzzing. It's the reaction that I was asking for the other night. Fantastic result today. So I am absolutely ecstatic to not only be on with yourself, Si and Luke, but all you beautiful people around the world and in London town and in England town too. Make sure you get your comments in. Make sure you send your love. Make sure you send your comments. Let us know what you're saying. Let us know how you're feeling. But yes, can't wait to jump in, Craigie. Can't wait. Let's have it.
Absolutely. Si, how are you?
Well, I'm
your
delighted.
Internet woes.
No, delighted with the result. I'm not sure about the performances again, but I want to go early here. My person of the match today is not a player of the match. My person of the match and person of the season has got to be Andrea Georgeson with these set pieces. Wow. How many points has he won for us? We're third in the league, and I bet you can notch a lot of those to that. So, yeah, I'm like Ricky. I'm buzzing about it, but probably as a Spurs fan, I always feel really happy, and then there's something gnawing at me, which is.
Well, we'll get into that gnawing side. What I would say is, what always helps with a corner is when you don't hit it against the front man and you beat the first man, which Ericsson could never seem to do when he was at Tottenham. So it's always good when that happens. And Luke, how are you, sir? How are you feeling?
Yeah, great. Really glad to be on my first show, and really glad that it's come after a win. It's always a bit of a gamble, isn't it, with Spurs? So, really happy that we can have some positive chats this evening.
No, absolutely. Well, me and Ricky have been here for many a defeat, and it's much nicer to be talking about a win. I can tell you, it's it does feel good, doesn't it? Right. Well, let's just have a look at a few of the stats from the game today. Okay, so Everton with overall better possession, 53.4% to Spurs, 46.6. XG, Everton 1.53, Spurs 2.08. 12 shots to Everton, 7 for Spurs, 2 on target for Everton and 4 for Tottenham. Touches inside the opposition box, 31 for Everton, 17 for Spurs. Goalkeeper saves, 1 from Pickford, 2 from Vicario. Seemed like more. That's weird, isn't it? It did seem like a lot more. 9 fouls committed for Everton, 8 for Spurs. 9 corners for Everton and 8 for Spurs, and the distance covered. 106 kilometres for Everton, and we did them all running at 110 kilometres. So, Rick, give us your thoughts overall on the game today.
Mate, what a game. I really enjoyed that game in the sense of two sides wanting to go at it and wanting to battle. You know, David Moyes, I think, has done a great job. It's the first time I've actually seen 90 minutes of Everton. And they look solid, and they look like they want to fight for something again. And they've got creativity in that young boy Ndai, who looks unbelievable. And of course, the man that we always should have been in a Spurs shirt, Jack Grealish. So they look like a good side. So it was a back and forth game, but you know what? Today was the response that I needed to see after Monaco, where we looked ragged and torn apart and a bit all over the place and not being able to get on the ball against Monaco. Today, we were back to that. There was a bit of a unit there, you know. There was togetherness there. There was determination there. And they wanted to put it right. Now, there was some things that didn't go our way, or niggles or gnaws, as Si likes to say. Of course there was. But overall, it was a solid performance. It was a reaction that we needed. 3 good goals and a clean sheet. Vicario, again, outstanding. Building on that performance from Monaco is exactly what I asked for. And having Kudus and Johnson in there, who were rotating, which was another thing I said on Wednesday. I was like, put them in there, but like, let them rotate, let them confuse the opposition, and they were doing that a lot in the first half. I was a bit confused that for a little while, for the first 5 minutes. I was like, do we have 2 right wingers playing today, plus Porro? But no, I then soon saw that they were on the rotation, and they were looking to use Kudus in a physical way as well, in the middle of the park. So yeah, overall, my friend, like I'm really happy with that performance after Monaco. I think it was really important for Vicario to build on it, for the defense to build on it. Van der Ven, not only solid and super rapid, but 2 goals. And a big shout out goes out to Danzo as well, because the games that he started and the games that he's played in, not many of us have mentioned much about him, and it's almost that when a player is doing really well, and they're not making mistakes, you can almost forget about them. So it's almost an indictment of it's almost a compliment to Danzo that we don't really mention him so tough. But he came in and used his physicality, and again is starting to form a really good partnership with Van der Ven, and they're starting to understand each other a little bit more again. Like we saw last year when Danzo came in, it took a little while, but you could see that we was playing towards the strengths of that pairing. So there was a lot of good things. A couple of niggles was, obviously Xavi again didn't really react in the same way. You could see how disappointed he was to come off when he did come off, which says to me that he wants more out of himself, and I like to see a player that's upset to come off. So he wants more from himself. He wants to affect the games more, but there were times where we were passing the ball around him, and when he did have an opportunity to thread somebody in or to make something happen, I think out of 5 times, he might have done it once or twice, So there was like 3 big glaring opportunities when we was on the break that he could have slopped people in, and it didn't really happen, or the pass was too short or stuff like that. So he's still building. I would love for us to get into at some point Pap Sarr, because when he came on, he's a happy guy. He's a bit like Sonny, always got a smile on his face, very calm demeanor, very good body language and energy in and around the squad. But you saw that he was disillusioned or disappointed at not starting today, and another game where he hasn't played. And then he's come onto the field, and even when he scored, and a great setup by Richarlison, but even when he scored, he didn't smile, he didn't celebrate. The boys, everyone went up to him and was grabbing his head and was kind of shake it, try to get him to shake it off and to celebrate and to smile with it, but he wasn't really having a bar of it. And I think there's something there that we've got to look at. I don't know whether he's fell out with the management, or whether there's something happening there, or whether he's just disappointed at starting the season so well and then not really, being taken out of the team. So, I really hope that Pap's okay. And when you look at it just on performance alone, at this present time, Pap should be starting over Xavi right now. Do you know what I mean? Physically, majority of the decisions that he's making, and that's okay as well. Xavi can earn his spot, and he can have a little bit more time to bed in. So I'm not writing Xavi off at all. I still think he's a very quality player. I think he's going to be dynamite for us, but it's taken a little bit longer than we all hoped. And sometimes that happens with players coming to the Premiership and coming to a new league and a new team and stuff. We have seen it before in many a team that it does take a while. I'm not writing him off, but just right now, I think Pap's earned his start over him at this present time. So, Niggles, but overall, really, really positive. Another thing that we can build on. Another thing that we've shaken off some rust. So now it's about keeping it moving forward.
I think Saar definitely starts in the week against Newcastle for me. So overall thoughts on the game?
Well, I thought let's break it down into kind of segments. For me, the defensive performance was exceptional. And I do mean exceptional. That's all of them. Vicario made crucial saves at crucial times, didn't he? And coming off the back of his performance on Wednesday has reminded everybody, what a key part of the team he is, a key part of the back line. Well, I think we were really solid. I was fascinated as well by the tactics that Frank had for us in the first half, because we had... we kind of were 4-3-3 or 4-3 or 4-2-3-1 when they had the ball. And then we went to kind of 4-2-4 when we had the ball. So I thought that was a fascinating kind of transition, as Ricky said, to see Kudus and Brennan in the same team was good. And also, if you looked when they had the ball, Kudus and Xavi were narrow. Johnson picked up Mikalenko coming down the left. And I'm going to give Johnson a bit of praise today, because Grealish is no doubt their best player. And I thought him and Porro did a job on Grealish. And, Brennan Johnson did do a lot of work. Okay, his output going the other way wasn't particularly brilliant, but he did have a couple of runs, and he stuck to his job, which was to make sure Porro was never left one-on-one with Grealish. So for that, I'm going to give him great kudos, because he was very disciplined. So, yeah, for me, we took, the goals we got were good at the time we got them. I think we were also very fortunate not to have a goal or have the goal disallowed that was given against us. And I try and look at it from the perspective, if we had that goal ruled out, how would I feel? And I would have felt that goal being disallowed was very soft. So I've got to turn it the other way. But overall, always delighted with 3 points on the road. And as Ricky said, there's plenty to work on. But, lest we remind ourselves, we're only 9 games into a Premier League season. So we're, only a quarter of a way into it. We haven't got the players that Frank might want available for him. And yet we're still third in the league. So you've got to take positives.
Yeah, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. But when you look at that, look, the league table here, Arsenal top, as we know. We won't talk about them, but having seen Bournemouth and Sunderland up there, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'd love that. Imagine if it finished like that. I mean, what a good advert for the Premier League, that teams can not only come up but compete. And somebody like Bournemouth, I mean, what performances they are putting in this season. I think it's just fantastic. But to see us in third with some of the games we've played, and we've all moaned at the start of football we're playing, but we got 17 points and we're in third. It's incredible. Luke, come around to you. Your thoughts on the game, and it's incredible to see us in third, isn't it? Like that, and just bits of luck and a couple of games we should have won. We could have been top, couldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about how good our away form is at the moment, and it is the best in the Premier League right now, if we were able to just sort out our home form a little bit, then we'd be even higher up. And I mean, you look at the team that's above us, they beat us, right? So if we'd have managed to, get a draw or possibly win that game, we'd be doing even better. And it's so, better than third is great. So if you'd have told me we'd be that close to Arsenal after 9 games, I would have thought, blimey, are Arsenal getting relegated? But it's crazy. But I think they've really got to work on whatever it is that's going on at home. Someone just asked in the comments about what is that, and my take on it is, I think that away from home, when you go to a team away, they tend to want to play their way at their own stadium. They don't want to be pragmatic and sit back and counter, unless that is their style. You've got managers like Nuno that like doing that a lot. But at home, they want to play the way they want to play. And Moyes, who I've seen come to Spurs with West Ham and just sit deep and pump it forward to Jared Bowen, who scored twice a couple of years ago, and they beat us 2-1. That's the sort of thing he does away from home. But at home, he's more expansive and open, and that gives us the opportunity to attack them and score from set pieces and to frustrate them. But when we're at home, we want to be expansive and open, and teams do it to us. So I think Frank's got to try and work on. He's nailed it away from home, but he's got to work on what our identity is at home and how we open teams up, because we're really struggling with that. And I think what you saw today go really well was the team worked well defensively for pretty much the whole game, but as a forward line, an attacking team, work well in parts. And if you can score in those parts and just hold on, you win away from home. But at home, I think the problems we saw in attack, where you mentioned it earlier, where it's just like misplaced passes constantly, or they just weren't reading each other's runs. The movement was slightly weird, maybe at points too close to each other, too far away. What they've got to do is get that flowing. They've got to get that working, and if that works, I think at home we'll start picking up more points. But you got to remember, we've got six players that would be starting today not playing. So to be third in the table, first in the table for away performances with those 6 players missing is mad. I think that's incredibly impressive. And a lot of people were very upset after Villa the other week on social media. There was a lot of frustration about it, but those guys come back, and you're talking about several of the players who performed well today sitting on the bench. And you're talking about squad depth, strength. You're talking about the ability to rotate. So, I loved Ange, but the one thing he was quite poor at, I thought, was actually getting the team that he had in front of him that was available to play the way he needed them to play. And Frank seems to be finding a way to get the pieces to fit on the pitch. Really, really impressed. But we all know we've got a tough run coming up now. We've got some ridiculously hard games.
Yeah, we have. We got what Chelsea, PSG, Copenhagen, Man U, Newcastle, of course. And Arsenal,
Newcastle on Wednesday night. Yeah, we got Arsenal at the end of the month. I mean, Newcastle on Wednesday night. I mean, that's a horrible fixture for midweek when they played yesterday as well, so they've had a day's more rest. Going up there on a Wednesday night, it's going to be bad weather as well. I think he's going to have to rotate. I don't know what you guys think, but I'm not. I hate to say it, but I'm not massively fussed about that fixture. I'd rather see the team come through without any injuries, really.
Yeah. It's we'll come on to Newcastle at the end of the podcast, Luke, because that's going to be this. It'd be interesting to see the fans split on that and their thoughts on that one. Anyway, look, let's get into the match incidents, Rick. Let's come to you. Didn't start off brilliantly, I didn't think, in this game. There's a few dodgy passes going on. Paulinho misplaced the ball a couple of times. Jack Grealish smashed the ball into Porro on the line within the first 10 minutes, if you remember. And then, of course, really, the next incident that's probably worth talking about is the goal that set us on our way. So talk us through this Van de Ven header.
Well, it was and this is a tactic that we seem to be using recently as well. So again, credit to Frank and Jorgensen, who Si was talking about earlier. But it was a deep cross to the back post, and it was one that confused Everton. And it got the touch across and then straight in. It was off Bentancur's shoulder, wasn't it? So it was off Bentancur's shoulder, and he's put it across the box. And Van de Ven alive, not only to the ball, but to all of those Everton players around him that were trying to get on his case and try and wind him up a little bit. But I love how he just was, he was giving the defenders, but Grealish as well, just those little smirks afterwards. But it was a great first goal where again we are showing that we're not so one-dimensional. I know it was from a set piece, but that this is another tool to our bag that we didn't really have, before our set pieces that we had under previous managers. I'm not just talking about Ange, I'm talking about previous managers, were incidental. They were, hopefully something happens. It wasn't like, oh, this is going to happen. So now it is a genuine threat, and as one of the comments said earlier, if you're not good at set pieces at this present time, then you're actually missing out on a massive trick. And we've turned something that was our weakness into a massive strength right now. So the football is coming. I think, again, it's about having a solid unified effort structure going forward, and then the kind of creative football and the flamboyant football and the attacking style of football can come out, and we're still finding our feet within that. But to start off, and like you said there, Craig, Everton were having their own opportunities, and not that it frightened me, so to speak, but I was like, we need to quieten them down real quick. And so it came at the right time to quiet them down, but not for too long, because Everton under Moyes, again, they were straight back at us. So it only took them like a couple of minutes before they were straight back at us. So it didn't really work the way that I wanted it to work, but it kept our noses up. The fact that they came back at us and were always pushing for a goal to try and either equalize or put us under pressure, kept every single one of the boys on point, focused, driven, knowing that the game wasn't over until that final whistle, sort of thing. That type of mentality. So, yeah, really good goal, like you say, at the right time, and something that we then could build on. And once that goal went in, you could see that the boys were a little bit more comfortable, and they started to play a bit more.
Definitely, and it really did settle us down. I thought that goal as well. So coming on to you, Van der Ven, captain today again. He's really taken that role on, hasn't he? I thought he was really, really good today, fully deserving of the man of the match. He's quickly turning into a leader, and you can see why Thomas Frank has put him in that leadership team.
Well, totally, and he's accredited, his development to Romero, saying Romero has made him a little bit more aggressive. And likewise, he said that he thinks he's made Romero a little bit calmer at times. So I think, look, if you're playing alongside a world-class defender, you're bound to get better yourself, aren't you? And then his personality, it's developing as he goes along. I think one thing with both the corner goals we score as well, if you look at Bentancur and Van der Ven on the second one, both of them drifted off of players. In the second one, Van der Ven jumped in front of Pickford. He didn't see him coming. And, that's part of the plan for Van der Ven to be more effective. And I don't know if everybody, probably heard Frank saying that he set Van der Ven a challenge, hasn't he, to score more goals from set plays. So
he's our top scorer, isn't he, Van der Ven?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's first, own goal second, I think it is. But but that was a challenge that Frank set him, that he's got to get more goals. So him stepping up, and like I said, I just think a lot of it is to do with the fact that Romero has brought elements of his game on, and I think that with a manager like Frank, if you look at what he did at Brentford, he made better players out of people like Pinnock, Collins, et al., who played at the back for Brentford. Will give him tools like Van der Ven and Romero, and they're going to be even better, aren't they? And I'm going to say this: my big worry ever is how do we keep Van der Ven? But that's not a question for the moment. But the fact that he is in the leadership team, the fact that he is captain in the side when Romero isn't there, is a big statement from us of how important we see him to the future of the club.
Absolutely. And let's come around to you, Luke. Something I didn't actually put on the screen because I was so excited that we won today was the actual lineup, when we didn't even talk about the lineup. So quickly, let's go through that. Vicario, Porro, Danzo, Van der Ven and Spence. Yeah, Palhinha and Bentancur as a double pivot in the middle, the much maligned one. People don't like to see that, but it obviously worked today. And Johnson, Kudus and Simmons just behind Kalumwani. Any surprises in there for you? And did you like the rotation where Kudus and Johnson and Simmons just kept swapping all over the place today?
Well, the thing that I thought was interesting was before the game, I was having a look at the Everton and how they've sort of lined up and where they tend to sort of like to play, and it seemed that they have kind of more of a weakness down their right side, and that every team that's come to their stadium this season has sort of put emphasis on attacking them down their right flank. And I thought, I wonder what Frank's going to do and if he's going to take advantage of that, because their sort of heat map suggests that they just seem to get it long up the left to Grealish, and he's been having a lot of possession for them up the left wing. But to see Johnson on the right and Kudus in the middle, but Simmons on the left, made me think that's it's an interesting. The cynic in me starts thinking, does he not trust? It was almost like he didn't trust Johnson to be alone on the left. So he put Kudus in the middle and Johnson on the right. And Kudus was, I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of the play was they were sort of overloading Everton's left side instead of the right, which I thought was interesting. And that Kudus was kind of there with Johnson and Porro was pushing up, and they were sort of playing in a triangle a lot more. And also the other thing is, I just want to say, I thought Bentancur, again, I know a lot of people have been going on about the Palhinha and Bentancur pivot, and when we saw them starting again today and people were going, oh, it should be Gray or Bergvall, but I actually thought Bentancur had a very good game today. I thought he was pushing much further forward. He was carrying the ball forward, and he was getting in pockets and receiving the ball a lot more than he has been recently. I think he's been at times guilty of being a little bit passive and slow to react when Kudus at the right or whoever's got it, Simmons needs an outlet, and he needs to drop into space. He was doing that much better today. So they just seem to be focusing all their attack up the right-hand side through Johnson. I
think you're right. Sorry, Luke, just to jump in there. I think you're right, because there was times Bentancur today was pushing forward a lot more than we've seen him do. Perhaps that is a tactic by Frank. He's looked at that and seen that Bentancur's got that in his locker and he can do it. So perhaps he was given a bit more freedom today.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Palhinha and Bentancur is, I think against Aston Villa, there's some horrific stat, like they managed to achieve two forward passes in the whole game, and you have to have someone who can link between that deeper lying player like Palhinha and Simmons or Kudus, whoever's going to be playing in that 10 role. So you need that kind of 8 to be progressing the ball through the middle of the pitch. And when we've got those two sitting very deep, never making forward passes, Simmons is having to do far too much work, or he's just never getting it. And that was the problem against Villa. And today you saw Bentancur a couple times. I'm sure I saw Palhinha push him in the back and he came steaming forward and then received the ball off the wing from Johnson. So that was much better today. But it was really good to see Moani get a start. Obviously, Richarlison's form's up and down, but he and Moani have a different level of physicality. I don't know if you saw maybe it was in the second half, but Moani took on Tarkowski and got past him, and Tarkowski had to almost do his back in to stop him. And I thought that's, when that player is up to, even 90% fitness, he's going to be good. He's going to be a solid forward for us because he's got pace and strength. He's got height. He's good in the air and he can finish, but he didn't get many opportunities today. So really positive to see him get that. But yeah, I thought Johnson starting, I thought and Simmons on the left, I thought was quite interesting. But I'd have to say, I think Simmons struggled a bit with the wing play today. A couple of times when he tried to get around the outside of, Everton are a really physical team. If you want a test of what the Premier League's like, you come up against some of the guys on that team, you're going to get a bit of a kicking, and he did today at times. But to his credit as well, he also managed to drop back. I think it was quite late, but just before he came off, actually, in the second half, he made a brilliant tackle on Ndiaye and turned him and ran back up the pitch with the ball. So he didn't have the best game. But, like I said, when those players start clicking, Frank's going to have a selection headache, because when we get players coming back and some of those players get into better form, it's going to be quite difficult to pick that 11, I think.
Craig, can I just make a quick point on the Palhinha Bentancur debate that goes through the fan base, and that is that in certain games, today being one of them, and I'm sure we could all pick other ones, I think you need them, because you need that solidity to start a game so that you don't get overrun. So, when we're away at Everton, or we're away at PSG, or we're away at the Emirates, I don't have a problem with the pair of them paying because it's a different kind of game. I think where we do come undone is like I think Luke said at the start, and Ricky, I know, says this often, is that we then, when we come up against a team that's going to be a low block against us at home, they don't have the skill set for that kind of game. But I just think, just to blanket say, and I've heard lots of people say, I never want to see them play together again. Don't be daft. For me, don't be daft. That's a bit silly. You pick your horses for the courses. That's where I sit with it.
Yeah. No, I'm probably in that. I'm probably with you on that, to be honest with you. I must admit, I was a bit frustrated to see it today myself again. I wanted something different, but it worked today. So that's why Thomas Frank's the manager and I'm not, I suppose. Ricky, Luke mentioned there about Kolomoani. He didn't get much service again today, did he? But he did actually put in a lot of work rate. I was watching him for long periods of the game. I think Luke's right. I think Kolomoani is going to be a bit of a weapon. And once he gets that first goal, I think he could be, assuming we feed him, of course, to get those goals, I think he could be a big player for Spurs this season.
Yeah, I think he could be massive for us this season. But it's not just the first goal. It's just getting him up to speed. It's getting those minutes in his legs. It's getting him, match fit so that he can be on the field for 90 minutes and he can trust his body to do what he knows it can do. We've seen it in flashes. What I was really impressed with when it came down to Kolo today was his movement and some of the runs he was making. Now, look, not every time the ball came or not every time, it got executed to its fullest. But he was making the right runs and he was making the right movements. His link-up play as well. He had great link-up play with whether it was Spence or trying to get Xavi involved or Kudus and stuff. The little 1-2s, the little round the corners. So there's flashes there. So fingers crossed that this 60 or so minutes that he had today is going to put him in good stead so that he can start showing us what he's really about. But I said it from the start, he could be, the number one there. He could be the best striker that we have up there. But it's just, we've got to see it, and we've got to see it in the Tottenham shirt. Because he's got the hold-up play and the link-up play of Solanke. He's got the aerial ability of Richarlison. And he's also quick. So not only can he hold it up, but he can run in behind. And that's what Tell does as well. So he does have a really good combination of attributes that if we can unlock and if we can start, like you say there, Craig, we can start feeding him, but he's also up to speed and strength to have the effect that he wants to have on the game, then it could be dynamite for us. Let's just remember it is still early days. Like we've all said, 9 games now in the Premier League, and we've had a couple in the Cups as well. So, but it's still very early days. And as he hasn't had no preseason. He's come in, got this dead leg. And look, I don't know what happened with this dead leg. Maybe it was an excuse to kind of give him an extra couple of weeks training or I don't know what, but maybe there's a different football dead leg. Craig, you might know this, but like I just remember the dead legs in school. Do you know what I mean? When you used to get a punch in your leg and you'd be like, ha ha, and then it doesn't want to do anything, but then you give it a couple of slaps and a rub and you go again. Do you know what I mean? But that's the only experience that I have with dead legs. So, I don't know why it kept him out for so long, but look, he's here now. Let's get him up to full fitness. Let's get him up to full strength. And that could be really, really exciting for us moving forward.
Definitely. I think, Rick, to be honest, I think they're all the same dead legs, but East London dead legs, they did differently, didn't they? You know what I mean? So
it's true, man, it's true.
It's true. Going on to set pieces, just coming on that for a moment. Arsenal have scored 16 Premier League goals this season, and people are saying they're king of set pieces. They've scored 9 goals from set pieces, 2 penalties, and only 5 from open play. But Arsenal are top of the league, so set pieces. I do like a set piece. It is coming back into the game. So it's certainly something you've either got to know how to defend against, or actually score from yourself, which it's proved that today that we are pretty good at set pieces so far. So I come round to you, just going back on that first goal, cross from Kudus, didn't have his most prolific game today, but I thought Kudus did okay today. So talk us through what your thoughts are of Kudus and Johnson, the two players that were on our wings today, pretty much.
Well, like I said at the start, I think Johnson deserves credit today because he was really disciplined and helped Porro cope with Grealish. I mean, can you really, apart from that early scare, Grealish didn't do too much in the game, did he? He didn't really hurt us like he can. And for Kudus, I think you could play him anywhere on the pitch, and that huge backside of his leaning into defenders and leveraging the ball away from players and his lower body strength, he will perform wherever he is, and that throws, as I think some people in the chat have said, that's the difference at the moment between him and Simmons. And you got to remember, Kudus has been in the Premier League for, this is his third season, isn't it? He had 2 with West Ham and 1 with us. And this is Simmons' 9th game in the league. You've got to look at the two. The lad will learn. He will develop. But, I'm praising Johnson today for his consistent hard work and helping Porro to keep Grealish under control. And also, I think that whenever he plays, Kudus is an outlet for us, isn't he? When we're trying to get the ball out and we're trying to progress up the pitch, he's just really strong. And whenever I look at him, is he a player I'd love to play with? Of course I would, because that when you feed that ball into him, it isn't coming straight back at you. And with greatest respect to Richie and other players that have played, when the ball's fed into them, it's gone back past you before you even know what's happened. So I'm happy with both Kudus and Johnson today. So no complaints from me on either of them.
You know what, Craig? I think Kudus done well today, bro. In the sense that, I think a little bit better than good. Not only was his crosses great from the corners and getting it into the place, pinpoint where, Frank and the tactics guys have said this is where we need it to be effective. But his strength, his durability, his dribbling ability, his fight, he helped us in that fight on that right-hand side. And going up, like I can't remember, one of the gents said earlier about Everton being a very physical side. He was our physicality today. And I think that's the biggest difference between someone like him and Xavi. Xavi hasn't got yet. So you're absolutely right. He hasn't got used to what the Premiership is right now. He doesn't realize that every week in, week out, he's going to have a physical battle on his hands. But he'll work it out and he'll get there. But Kudus' strength is his strength and his physicality and his ability to judge the bounce of a ball, even when it's going in different directions. He judges the bounce of the ball so well, and to be able to turn a kind of a defensive action into an attacking action real quick. When he bursts up that right hand side, you can tell that everybody's like, all right, we need to get hold of him. And also, you can see why Everton were putting in some big challenges on Kudus to try and slow him down and to try and stop him from being effective today. Yes, we've seen that. I think 60-odd, 70-odd minutes, he does start to drop off a little bit energy-wise. But I think that's something that we have to start to manage with him, and he will get stronger with us as well. Yeah, Luke, jump in, bro.
We were relying on him too much because I think every time the ball came forward, Simmons was struggling with the physicality, and Johnson, I have to say, it's really sad to see, because despite the fact that there's this sort of, good performance going on around him, every time he gets the ball, he just looks like he's not sure what to do with it. He's devoid of confidence, and it takes a player like Kudus coming in to really show up Johnson's performances and say, look, you can see this isn't really working. And today I think he was having to do a little bit too much. He was having to carry the ball through the middle. He was running out on the right to support Johnson. He was overlapping Porro when Johnson didn't seem to be reading that very well. So I think that Kudus was just all over the pitch today, whereas normally he's been stuck to the right. And I've noticed in the last few games, teams have started, or when Odebear's played on the left, he's suddenly getting a lot of space. He got a lot of space against Monaco the other night. It was because teams that even tripling up against Kudus, because they're like, look, we cannot let this guy. We've seen what he's done in the first few games of the season. We can't let this guy get down the wing because he's going to whip it in. He's really dangerous. So we'll triple up on him and hope that we can deal with the guy they've got on the left. And so far they kind of have, which is a problem. And I got to say, watching, I think I'm right in saying Ndiaye can play on the left. And I watched him today and I thought, man, imagine him on one side and Kudus on the other. You would not know how to defend that. You would think we're going to have to go man for man and you won't be able to stop them for 90 minutes. So it does, when you get a player playing at that quality and that level as Kudus has been, it does unfortunately show up some of the other guys in the team. And I think Simmons, not a great performance today. Johnson sort of getting a bit of a catalogue of performances where he just doesn't really affect the match enough. And it's a bit of a shame, really. It's kind of sad to see because he's got that legendary status. No one will ever be able to take that goal in the Europa League final away from him. But, you know, he just hasn't kicked on from then, really, has he?
I think you're right, though,
I still want to defend Johnson because I think he was given a role today with looking after Grealish with Porro, and I think he did a good job of that, and that's what he was asked to do. If you look, who was the further forward of the two, Kudus or Johnson, pretty much every time it was Kudus. So, you know, I'm just going to give him a little bit of a pat on the back for that because people have questioned his appetite and his will to, you know, work for the team. But I think he did the job he was asked for today. Again, just a matter of opinions, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. He did do that. And you could see that when we know that he's not the strongest defender in the world. He needs that person there. And Johnson's pace worked in getting back to make sure Grealish wasn't overlapping. But there's a few moments. I noticed one bit in the game where Kudus wins the ball back right in front of the D in our box, and he's got space out to his right. And Johnson is standing next to Porro, having previously just defended against an attack down that left wing from Grealish. And Kudus chips the ball over the two Everton players into that space. And Johnson realises that's where he should be. And he realises about 10 seconds too late. So he then tries to make a run for it, misses it, and then they get in behind him. And I just think that's his problem at the moment. He's reading the game slightly too late all the time. His work rate is there, he's trying, but he just seems to be 10 seconds behind the pace all the time. He's young enough that he could change that. He can change that on the training pitch and turn it around. And I desperately want him to do that because, you know, he is a legend and he will, forever be remembered fondly by all of us. But it's kind of sad to see him just slightly off the pace in these games and therefore they're not getting picked in the future. So there was a few moments like that today. But yeah, he did. You're right. He had a role to play and he did do it well.
I think as well, King Holdall makes a really good point here. I was just about to say this. I think he must have been reading my mind. He's tactically astute to give Kudus more of a free role. Need to give Frank credit. I 100% agree. I was going to go a bit further to say the way they were all switching around like we were just discussing. But I think the side like Everton today would have come with a plan to double or triple up on Kudus and then to have suddenly not know where he's going to be on the pitch. You know, certain players, like whoever was on his side, whether it was Grealish or Ndiaye or whatever that other chap is, I can't remember the Everton left back, but they would have had a plan to double. And if he's popping up on the other side, as a defender, you're thinking, well, do I go over there or do I pass him on to somebody? You know, is it man marking type of thing? Not that would normally happen with a left back, but you know what I mean. It's gonna really make the opposition think, isn't it? So that was absolutely kudos to Thomas Frank for that. Kudos for moving Kudus around the pitch. That's a good one. Right, Ricky, come around to you. Just a quick mention on this one. It was just after Bentancur had actually got forward, like we were saying earlier, he did get forward a fair bit today, had a rasping shot just go wide. We had this moment where we thought Everton had scored, and it was rightly, in my opinion, disallowed for a offside decision or impeding Vicario. Talk us about this, Rick. Was that a correct decision? I'm assuming it was.
I think it was. And you know, Van der Ven got one ruled out for less than that a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember who it was against, but he got one ruled out for less than that. And what happened here was that Grealish and Ndiaye, I think it was Ndiaye, that snuck round the back and they basically sandwiched Vicario. So they put both of their shoulders against Vicario's shoulders, impeding his movement and his ability to run, jump, and catch, which is what a keeper needs to do. So for that impediment, yes, 100% it should have been ruled out. But I think that we were also very lucky to get away with one a bit later in the second half, where Johnson got hold of one of the Everton players. He had his arm around his waist and around his chest, I think it was, and obviously the Everton player fell over. But I think we was lucky to get away with that one. But this 100%, they had to chalk it off, mate, because it was a planned tactic to impede the goalkeeper. It's what they done. They did score, but rightfully so. VAR and the referee made the right decision and correctly ruled it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can't quite see it there because the picture's quite zoomed out, but it was quite clear to me, regardless of the offside, he was impeded anyway. So there's two things quite wrong there. Rick, let's just stay with you for Van de Ven's second goal here. This really was they say it's a perfect time to score, isn't it? Just before the half. So on 45+6, Van de Ven comes up with his second goal of the day. Talk us through this one.
Well, this one was another very clever set play. I feel great cross from Porro on the left hand side there. So it's another kind of whipped in ball, but because Everton and Grealish was so involved in the kind of the Scheizerhausery of the penalty box when taking a corner, because they were so involved in trying to get the referee to look at our players or for an argument, I think they switched off, because Van de Ven, it was almost like he teleported from one part of the box to the next part of the box and just was right in front of Pickford and put it across him, mate, and put his head on it. And what a second goal, and what a perfect time to do it. Right at the end of the first half, after 7 minutes extra time played, perfect time to go in there and perfect time again, I was hoping, to kind of dampen Everton down. But again, Everton came out of the second half, out of the blocks real quick, and they wanted to make an impact. And I think that's got to do, that's credit to David Moyes and how he's got this Everton side working and playing right now. If this was under previous managers, I think that Everton probably would have collapsed after that, but they didn't. I think Everton and Evertonian fans, yes, it was a 3-0 loss today for them, but I think there's lots of kind of green shoots for them going forward as well. So, look, perfect time to score. And like I say, the fact that Van de Ven just he moved from that front post to the middle of the middle of the goal and just got his head right in front of Pickford. So it was hard for him to see where that ball was going because it was so close to him. So, yeah,
really good comment here, by the way, from King Border, with some big aerial threats in the opposition box now. Mickey Van de Ven, Christian Romero, Paulinho, and Danzo. Absolutely. I think Danzo could be a threat, but he's generally the one taking perhaps the throw-ins if he's coming from a throw-in. But in the box, I mean, they're all big lads, aren't they? So,
Craig, don't forget Bentancur in this.
I was about to say that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's a unit as well, and in the air, as was put out with the first goal, and he's created a couple with that when he drifts around the back post. So he's another big lad. We've gone to the land of the giants, haven't we, in the last kind of 18 months? So it's a bit of a change.
Well, somebody who's not. Go on, Luke. Yeah.
So I was going to say, it's really funny that all these players were here last year as well. Like, upset for Paulinho, they were all here last year, and we weren't able to do that last year. And it just shows you what coaching, how it can change something pretty quickly. I also thought it was really funny that Sky Sports put up a stat saying Everton haven't conceded a single goal from a corner right before we scored from a corner, and then we did it again. And
they were the last team to concede from a set piece this season, apparently, the last team. And we've done them there.
Yeah, now they're fairly far down the table.
Done them twice. But again, Craig, I think, look, when we lose a game or when we don't have a performance, and you asked me after Monaco, there was a lot of kind of vitriol online, and some were asking for Frank's head at that point. And it's times like that, like what Luke just said there, that we've got to give him credit. It's times like what Si said about the formation changes. What I didn't really see against Monaco, I didn't really see a moment where we could change the game and get back hold of it. But today, again, we're seeing these things that a lot of the fan base were asking for. So when it's, give credit where credit is due to Frank and that coaching team for coaching the side and for turning a weakness and tools that Luke just said there, tools we've had in our locker for a long time. Well, now it's a massive strength. That's big up to Frank and the team, man. And it should give him a little bit of credit within the fan base.
Absolutely. Well, some interesting stats. While we're talking about stats, Tottenham have scored 3 headed goals in the Premier League game for the first time since March 2008 versus West Ham. God, that was a long time ago. Everton have conceded 3 headed goals in the Premier League game for the first time since March 96 versus Wimbledon. Wow. That's incredible. Kevin Danso made 18 clearances against Everton, the most by a Tottenham player in the Premier League since Jan Vertonghen made 21 against Burnley in December 2016. He also won 100% of his duels. That's 6 out of 6 and didn't commit a single foul against the Toffees. And Mickey van der Ven is the first defender to score twice in a Premier League game for Spurs since Jan Vertonghen in March 2013 versus Liverpool. And Jan Vertonghen, Mickey van der Ven's numbers versus Everton, 61 of 68 passes completed, 7 clearances, 5 interceptions, 2 duels won, 2 times possession won, 2 touches in the opposition box, 2 shots, 2 goals. Fantastic performance. So somebody who's actually not performing like we'd all like to see him is Javi Simmons. What do you make of Javi Simmons? What is not quite happening for him at Spurs at the moment, is it?
No, and I think that I touched on it earlier. There's two parts to it. First, it's the physicality of the league that he's come into. And secondly, when he's biased to the left, I don't think it's the best use of his skills. I think he needs to be, if he's going to play anywhere, coming off the right a little bit more. So I don't think that we're helping him with what we're asking him to do just at this moment. And I think that he needs to play as a more of a central 10 for me if you're gonna fit him into a lineup. And also, one other thing, it's all very well playing in the Bundesliga, and we're told it's the nearest thing to the Premier League, but it isn't the Premier League. You can look fantastic in there. And the other thing I'd add here is there's another certain German player that cost 120 million that's having the same kind of issues adapting. So I don't think it's anything to do with the lad himself. I just think it's, a combination of factors that are playing into why he just needs time to adapt. And the other thing as well is a bit like Wirtz at Liverpool with his price tag and Simmons with his price tag. Look, they don't set the price tags, but there's an expectation that comes when you either cost, 60 million quid or 120 million quid, and you're expected to hit the ground running. I don't know of many players in forward positions that crack it in their first 10 games. And, I think I said on the show Wednesday, our 2 best performers this season, for me, have been Palhinha and Kudus. And what have both of them got? Premier League experience. They're used to a wet Sunday in playing at Everton. They're used to a wet, windy night at Turf Moor. They're used to the thrust and counter thrust of the Premier League. I'm not making excuses for him. I don't think he's been strong enough, and I don't think he's been confident enough. And that's something that I'm sure the coaching team have got their eye on. And I don't think that all of it lies at his door. But again, it comes down to players learning each other. You've got to give him the ball in the positions where he can do the most damage. Is that coming off of the left when he's got a right-footed player behind him? The best he's played this season, in my opinion, was at Brighton when he had a doggy flying past him on the left-hand side. That gives him another option. And I think Spurs have a huge problem with the lack of left-footed players. Because if you're an opposing manager the easiest way to stop Spurs, as we've all identified, is you double up on Kudus, and then on the left-hand side, you know that when a doggy's not there, everything is going to come infield. So you block the infield side inside where the play is going to come, because Jed Spence is right-footed and Simmons is right-footed and Odebear's right-footed. And you know they're not going to go past you on the outside. But that's a team issue, not just one that's specific to Simmons. But I think if you'd had more games with him playing with a doggy, outside of him, I think he would be more effective. That's not to say he hasn't played with a doggy there, but that's when he's looked his best. So I think there's a number of factors playing into it. If we're having the same conversation this time next year, it's different. But the lad has only been there for just coming up for 2 months, because he was quite near the end of the transfer window. 8 weeks, break it down. That's no time at all. And and everybody forgets that it is moving to a new country, new culture, etc., etc. Not making excuses for them, but I just think sometimes we all forget that they are young men, and they're going through a lot as much as anybody else would if they went through the same kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, Luke, somebody who's been at the club a little while and has certainly earned his money over the last few weeks is Vicario. This was a stunning save from Beto overhead kick. But what do you make of Vicario? He's an enigma, isn't he? Sometimes he can do the most stupid things, and yet he pulls out saves like this one. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he made another one in the first half where I actually think it was going just wide, but I couldn't believe he got to it. I think it was in Dial. Someone shot from outside the box, and he made it to it. The full length of the goal. He was incredible the other night against Monaco. He deservedly won man of the match, and he was, I think, before today. Before the Villa game, he was the first in the league for the percentage of shots saved. So he was up there on about 83%. After the Villa game, it dropped because I think he only had about 3 or 4 shots go his way in that game and conceded 2 of them. But today, I've no doubt he's probably right back at the top again because he made some fantastic saves. He is obviously really naturally talented shot stopper. He really reminds me, actually, of Hugo Lloris. That's exactly what Lloris was like, just incredible reaction shot stopper, but there's this slight nerviness about him sometimes when things happen. And he did something today that he definitely got away with. A corner came in, there was a kind of melee of players, and I think it was even 2 or 3-0 at this point. It was an Everton corner came in, and he jumps up, tries to punch it, and he gets absolutely nowhere near it. But fortunately, the ball comes off someone's head and bounces out of the box. And I thought that's the sort of moment where he gets slightly shown up for being a little bit unstable, maybe a little bit sort of he sort of panics a little bit and makes slightly the wrong choice. He's in his head thinking, I need to punch this, but he doesn't stop for a second to think, I'm never going to get over that massive melee of players, so I'm probably better off on my line. So, but that's the life of a goalkeeper. I used to play in goal. I know what it's like. You've got to make split-second decisions, and you get blamed for it because if you get it wrong, it's a goal. Right?
Whereas you're the last line of defence. Yeah,
exactly. If you miss an open goal at the front, but your team still win, no one says anything about it. Yeah. So, unfortunately, you naturally take a ton of the blame. So he's had a bit of stick leading up to the Monaco game the other night, and I think from his perspective, fair play to him and well done to him for saying, I am a good goalkeeper and I'll show you. And he's done that in these last 2 games. 2 brilliant clean sheets that are down to him because I think another goalkeeper would have let that pass them today. I think he just needs to work on a little bit more of the nerviness. And the funny thing is, a lot of people were targeting him for his passing as well. But up until a couple of weeks ago, he was also the most accurate short passing goalkeeper in the league. So his stats are looking good, really. It's just these moments where we've seen him. He was picked apart, wasn't he, against Wolves and I can't remember who else it was, but for palming a shot, it was against Leeds, palming a shot into the striker who then tapped it in, right? Again, really, really, really difficult thing for a goalkeeper to do, to push it well beyond someone running into goal, especially if they haven't seen them, so it's a 50-50 argument that I can see both sides of it. But his stats are suggesting he's a lot better than people give him credit for.
But Luke,
Well, no,
that
I
point you
agree.
just made, Luke, that point you just made about Vic pushing the ball out. If you remember, it hit one of our defenders. If our defender wasn't there, the goal against Wolves wouldn't have happened because he got enough on it to get it past the two players there. And also the one that he pushed to the side at Leeds when Okafor was there to knock it in. If our defender had been as alive as Okafor was, he would have got there in front of him and knocked it out for a corner.
Yeah.
So
I
think I always thought that was harsh on Vic because he did what everybody expects a goalkeeper to do: push it wide of the post. But I think in the last two games he's been superb. And and now that we've got the land of the giants around him defending corners, suddenly there's not as much pressure on him to perform in getting the ball out. So I think that all adds to the mix of why we're better defensively.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is if the attack's not clicking, something like that, and you get one goal that affects a game like it did against Wolves. We had to fight really hard just to equalise. Everybody piles on to the goal that we conceded and doesn't think about the fact that really Wolves are a absolutely terrible team. I mean, you saw today they conceded 3 at home to Burnley, right? So that suggests we have got problems in our forward line. If they'd have pumped them up front, no one would have said anything about that goal. No one would have criticised Vicario. But of course, one goal goes in and they all turn on him for that. So yeah, I think across the season he's doing the job he's supposed to be doing. So the criticism I think is a bit unfair.
He is at the moment. He certainly is. Yeah. I'll just want to you talking about players not scoring. Javi and Kolo Muani went off on 61 minutes for Bergvall and Richarlison. On 65 minutes, Richarlison was put through. Actually, did well to get onto the end of it, but just smashed it at Jordan Pickford when perhaps a bit more of a composed finish would have been the order of the day there. But Ricky, just quickly on Richarlison, I was just thinking, and I shouldn't do this, if that was Harry Kane, that was in the back of the net. And I think that's the difference, isn't it? Richarlison's just instinctive. Sometimes Richarlison's better than when he had a little bit of time to think about it and he just smashed it.
Yeah, and it's also that thing, like Luke spoke about a catalogue, right? You're starting to build up a catalogue, when you're speaking about Johnson. And the thing is that Richarlison is almost building up a catalogue of not scoring. So it's like I had this feeling under Ange, I think it was, that when he's through on goal, when he's one-on-one, half of my soul doesn't think he's going to score. Whereas, like you make the example there of Harry Kane. Well, when Harry was through or when Sonny was through, everything in my being was like, we're scoring. This is a goal. And yes, sometimes it didn't come off, but 9 times out of 10, it did. And it's that opposite feeling that I have with Richie. When he's through on goal, I don't have the feeling that I've got the feeling that he's more going to miss or it's not going to go in than it's going to go in. And that might sound harsh, but again, for me, he's just built up that catalogue for me. But what I would say also, I just wanted to make this quick point about Xavi as well, and putting almost time limits on seeing the best of him. Modric, a guy that when he first came in under Harry, very slight. There was criticism from the fan base at that point that he was too lightweight to go in the middle of the park and dictate play. And we know what happened with Luka Modric, right? Sonny, at the end of his first season, he was about to leave. It was Poch that put his arm around him and said, "No, look, all right, cool. We've seen some great things. I know you're disappointed on a couple of the other things, but trust me, your time is coming." And we know what happened there. And also, when we look at someone like Sissoko, now Sissoko, Premiership proven player, was playing at Newcastle. Shouldn't really have any adaptation period, or not like one where you're thinking after game 6 that what's going on here. But he had a season where the reasoning that came out was he was adapting to life at Tottenham Hotspur. So you look at 3 of those and you look at the adaptation time and you look at it's all different. It's all different depending on the type of player you are. And someone like Xavi will get there. I've got massive faith and belief that he will get there. But don't put so much of a time pressure on him. He will find it. This season's going to be a massive learning curve for him. And once he understands the league and the players that he's up against, we will see him go from strength to strength. I just wanted to chuck that in as well.
There's one other point on him, Rick, as well, is that I don't think the kind of slow build-up suits him. I think if you're quick in transition, and it's the same with Kudus as well, we would get better from all of them if we were just that little bit quicker in transition. But again, that comes, look again, if we had a centre forward, if you had a Solanke playing and we clear our lines to Solanke and you've got Xavi breaking off of him, Kudus breaking off of him, it would look different. But we're not doing that at the moment because we haven't gotten there. So, I'm with you. I think there's a lot more to come from him, and the lad's only been with us for 2 months. So,
absolutely.
I just see a good future for him.
Let's hope so. Well, on 55 minutes, I'll just sling these. Sorry, beg your pardon, we've done that one. He's made so many good saves. Vicario, what a save this was. I couldn't believe that he actually got down to this. Just a fantastic save again from Vicario. What a few games he's been having. Si, coming round to you, Sarr came on 78 minutes for Kudus, and then on 89 minutes, Pat Matasar scored a goal. Talk us through this one. Great cross from Porro again.
It was, and it was a good break. Look at the numbers we've got going forward there, and that's what makes the difference when we transition quickly. Look, you can see what we got there: 7 Spurs players in the shot, and I think that is the difference when we did it. And also, Richie, a really good header into Sarr's path, wasn't it? And just showing he was aware and didn't try to do anything silly. And it was a good goal, a well taken goal, and a well constructed goal. And I don't know if everybody's aware, but we were saying about Papsar looked a bit flat, but there was a Senegal player, I believe, who lost his life after a kidnapping at the weekend.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I think he was a little bit subdued by that, allied to where he thinks he should be playing or not. And I just think he was just being a little bit respectful to the guy who lost his life by not celebrating too hard and not being too ecstatic about it, which I fully get. But say, good goal. Well done, Richie. Well done, Porro. Fantastic ball. But it was lovely to see even then in the 89th minute, 7 Spurs players raiding on the Everton goal. I don't think we did that in the previous 88.
No, it's quite incredible, Si, actually, because you can see there in the bottom left-hand corner of the picture for those watching on YouTube, that's Jed Spence forward as well. And to have Porro and Spence, we haven't really spoke about Porro and Spence, but I thought they were pretty solid today. But the pair of them didn't really do much wrong. But this goal certainly settled any nerves anybody may well have had about Everton coming back into it, because they had a little spell where they were pummeling us a bit, but we dealt again with all the crosses that came into the box, broke up the other end, and 3-0, that was it, game done and dusted. 90 plus 3 minutes, Matisse Tell come on for the final few minutes for Brennan Johnson, but Spurs essentially cruise on paper anyway to a 3-0 win, becoming the first team, as we just said, to win at the Hill Dickinson Stadium, with Mickey van der Ven, quite rightly in my opinion, getting man of the match. So that's 3 points in the bag for Spurs. So up next for Tottenham on Wednesday is Newcastle away in the Carabao Cup. Overall, 37 wins for Newcastle in this tie at St James's, 28 for Spurs with 20 draws. Top scorer in this fixture is, of course, Alan Shearer with 10. You wouldn't think it would be anybody else, would you? Last time we won at St James's Park, 3-2 on the 17th of October 2021. The last 3 games we've lost 2-1, 4-0 and 6-1. Does everybody remember that 6-1 where Harry Kane got the only goal? That was horrendous, with some of our fans leaving after a quarter of an hour when they absolutely ripped us apart. So last few questions for you, coming round to you, Luke, on this. How important is this game to Frank? is it more important to our supporters? What changes would you like to see, if any? And give me a score prediction. I know that's a lot of questions. So if you just condense it, is it more important to Frank or the supporters? And give me a score prediction. And who would you want to see play?
Not important to anyone. 11 changes, 2-0, back home on the bus, nobody injured. Lovely.
Really?
I don't care. Honestly, I
don't care about it.
I think it's an awful, awful draw. We've had this year on year. We keep getting terrible draws in these competitions. Some other teams, particularly one not far from us, that have had some fantastic runs in the FA Cup in the past 10 years. And we keep getting these horrible fixtures like this. And I just think, you know what? We've got that curse of the game coming up, haven't we, soon? That game that curses us at the same time of year. I don't know how we are playing Chelsea in November again, with Van der Ven looking a little bit sore as he came to the pitch today, and I was like, "No, we're going to
need him." Jesus,
be starting with Danso and Gray against them on the next weekend if he gets injured against Newcastle. And I just thought I can't be having it. But for Frank, unfortunately, that's not his reality, is it? He can't do that. I mean, he literally sat in an interview at the start of the season and said, "Well, we're going to compete on all fronts." So that's his job. He's got to do it. I remember Ange getting a lot of flack for getting knocked out to Fulham in the first game of it was obviously the game earlier than this when in his first season, but of course that was because we weren't playing any Europe. So a lot of people were saying, well, really, we should be focusing on the cups at that point. The Champions League is tough. We want to get in that top 8 to avoid the punishment round, as they call it. And I think those 2 extra games in sort of the end of January, early February, they're killer. So I don't know about this one. I think Newcastle are the sort of team that will probably put out a strong 11 and go for it as well, because they're the defending team of the cup. So I just prefer to see. I'd like to see some other players get a run out as well. There's a few. I mean, I'd really like to see Sarr start and play. I think Bergwall deserves a chance to sort of prove himself again after a sort of iffy performance against Villa the other day, or against Monaco. So yeah, I think I would not be upset with a lot of changes, but Frank is going to want to pick a competitive team. He's not going to want to go up there and get rolled over, because I think Eddie Howe will pick a strong side. But yeah, there we go.
Score prediction, Luke, then?
I think I imagine it's probably going to be 1-0 to them. A horrific game. I think I'm going to be negative.
Okay, I'm personally going to go for a draw and go to penalties. And which way it goes on penalties, I'm not even going to give you a prediction for. Ricky, what sort of changes do you want to see in this game, and give me a score prediction?
You know what? I'm so with Luke on this, because it's not just the Newcastle game. It's Chelsea in the next game, and the fact that it's game 10. The last time we got to game 10, everybody got injured. It got dismantled, and that has happened in the last 2 seasons in a row. And it's that game that I want to fit and fire in for, and kind of going out to win. So I'm kind of with Luke on that. It's because Chelsea's on the horizon, but I think it's more important to Frank. I don't think Frank, like Luke said there, I don't think Frank wants to put out a side to quote unquote lose or just give it up. So I think it'll be a bit of a mix and match side. But again, this is an opportunity for those that haven't been playing to come in and grab your shirt, make an impact, make the manager have a quandary about who his next selection is against Chelsea or in the coming weeks and months. So for whoever does come in, it's a great opportunity to go out there and show us what you're about. I really hope that the ones that do come in, and I haven't seen this, to be fair, I haven't seen this for a long time, but those that do come in are not sulking because they're not quote unquote in the first team. It's your opportunity. Go out there, grab the shirt, make it happen, show us what you're about. Hopefully Archie Gray gets a start in midfield. Like you say, Bergvall, Sarr would be great. Kinski, I would put him in. Even though we've had 2 phenomenal performances from Vic, I think Vic's shown us in these last 2 performances why he is number 1 and why we're going to need him. So it'd be a great opportunity for Kinski to come in again, show us what you're about. He needs games and game times as well. So it'd be great for him to come in. I depending on who's available, I would try and rest Porro and maybe put Spence on that side, and then who we play on the left. It depends on availability, but it's going to have to be a bit of a mix and match side. I'd play Richie up there as well, and maybe Tell and Odebear on the wings. Give Kudus a rest too. So yeah, but I'm going to go for a big, because you know how it is against Newcastle. We know that guy that, what's his name? Murphy loves to score against us, loves to score against us. He just turns up against us all the damn time, and then Harvey Barnes is probably going to get a start. Look, they're coming off of a good Champions League win, and I think they're buoyant. I think they're finding their feet. I think they're starting to click up front. Anthony Gordon's gone back out on the left. So they're getting things going their way. Volta Maida up front has done well, so good. I'm so impressed with him as well as a centre forward. So yeah, I think they're going to have a little bit of rotation because they're going to want to keep a couple fresh, but they've got a lot of pace and power in their side. So I'm going to go for, and I never predict a loss, even in the worst of times, guys. So you already know it's going to be a Spurs win, but I'm going to go for a 3-2. I'm going to go for a goal fest. It's going to be 2-2 up until the 90th, 85th, 90th minute, and then it's going to be a winner by, I don't know. I'm going to say Archie Gray. Archie Gray winner.
We'll take that.
Why not?
We'll take that. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad Wednesday evening. So, finally, yourself, what are your thoughts on Wednesday, and give us a score prediction?
Well, I'm laughing at Ricky talking about Murphy's Law, which is kind of it struck me. I personally, this is going to be heresy. Throw it. I don't want to see Van der Ven, Danso, Porro, Polina, Bentancur anywhere near that team on Wednesday night. I don't want them to play. I want to see the youngsters play, and I'd even go as far as I'd play Gray and Byfield at centre half, because I just don't. If Dragosin's fit or whatever, give him a run. I don't want to see Danso and Van der Ven play, because for me, the Chelsea game always has been and always will be far more important. And I'd even go as far to say, I don't care what happens in Paris. I don't care, because it's not, if it's a game we lose 1-0 or 3-0 or 6-0, it doesn't matter. That's not the level we're at the moment. But I think that the matches that we have got that are winnable in the run that's coming up, Chelsea aren't pulling up trees at the moment, so put the best team that you can out against them. Man United, try and get the points against Man United. And also, for me, I always want the strongest team available to go to the Woolwich Wanderers, because I wouldn't want to lose to them, ever. The same with Chelsea. So I just think there's other matches that are more important than Wednesday. And on the basis of my 11 changes, I think we lose 3-1. Sorry to say it. I'd love a draw and a penalty shootout. Craig, I'll take that, but I just don't want to see. The Chelsea game means more. The Chelsea game means more to me than the Newcastle game. It's just how I'm stacked on it.
There's an issue that this game is really throwing up, though, and one that I think they've got to do something about in January, is that you can look at a lot of positions on the pitch and say, yeah, we'll change the front three, we'll change the midfield three, and then you start thinking, hold on a minute, who's going to play at fullback? Because that is such an issue. Like, yeah, we've got injury to a doggy, but we've got 3 fullbacks in the team. That's laughable. So you get one injury to them, and you've got to play Porro and or Spence, if not both of them, in that game, which is madness, because they're so important.
I'd like a quid, Luke, for every time I've come on here and said we underdid it in the transfer market, particularly in the fullback positions. But there you go. Maybe we'll put it right in January, but
no, do you know what? So that's your opinion. I personally want to see us go a little bit stronger, but I totally get it. Resting players for the Chelsea game and the Man U game. I mean, Manchester United have only got to beat Forest, and then that guy can cut his hair if they turn us over at our stadium. And talking about hair, Ricky, you've got far too much hair for this podcast, so we're going to have to end it there. Do you know what I mean? But that's the thing about that United strand. Tottenham are always in the conversation. Whatever going on, Tottenham are part of it, aren't they? And it's this thing with the fellas here, the United strand. And to be fair to him, he seems like a really top guy, and he's going to be donating his hair to some charity as well.
No, me.
I think there's a few of us who can do with it, but we don't want him to have to cut it. So it would be quite funny if we somehow nicked a winner in the last minute. He's just got the scissors there ready to go, and then we beat them. But that's a discussion for another day. That is definitely a discussion for another day. Well, look, Tottenham win today. We take all 3 points away from Everton's new stadium, the first team to do so. And we're third in the Premier League. Guys, thanks so much for joining me as always. Ricky, where can people find you?
You guys know where you can find me. You can find me on official Ricky Norwood on Instagram. That's where you'll see most of the things that I'm doing work-wise, whether I'm hosting or filming or bits and pieces, photos of that nature. But you can also find me at official at Ricky J Norwood on X, formerly known as Twitter as well. You can find me there, but you'll see me on this podcast probably after Newcastle. And if you want more of my ramblings, you can find me at Tea Talk and Tottenham, where we speak about the last 14 odd days from Tottenham's history, the ups and downs and the roundabouts. So there's plenty of me to go around, you lovely people, so you can find me where you need me. Also, it's been a pleasure and a joy to be on with these two beautiful gents, Luke and Si. Craig, well done for hosting again. You've done a tremendous job. And all you beautiful people around the world that have joined us today, thank you, bless you. Sending you big, big love.
Thanks, Ricky. And Si, where can people catch up with you?
You can find me on X and my really stupid handle. And just want to send out the love to the Spurs family who give us so much love. I appreciate that. I'll be doing something for the Spurs Chat Podcast as well with my Foxy feelings this week. So we've had a bit of football, so I'm going to get some Foxy feelings out there. And you can also find me at the bar at 104 next Saturday, the Chelsea game, and come along and we'll have a beer and a chat. So always happy to engage with Spurs fans wherever you find me, and it's a pleasure to be on with all you guys. Lovely to be on, Luke. Great debut, my man, and hopefully we'll see you on again soon.
Thanks, Si. And finally, Luke, where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been brilliant to be on for the first time tonight. I've loved it. You can find me at Hotspur_stats on X and Hotspur.stats on Twitter. On Instagram. And I'll be posting another stat of the week on Chris's channel next week. So, yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been awesome. Really great chatting to you all. It's been fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Luke, and a wonderful debut, as I said there. Well, as I say, everybody, you can go and enjoy the rest of what's left of your weekend. You can enjoy Match of the Day 2 tonight, but I'm sure you'll tune in and watch Spurs again beat Everton. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks for listening. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.